Hi, this is Callie from Mythical Type Zines. I wanted to do an overview video and go through the zines that I made in 2023. So I have them all here and I'm just going to go through and talk about each one a little bit. This first one is Work in Progress. This is a zine that I made about how I make some of my zines. So I've got an introduction and then tools of the zine trade, like supplies and tools that I use most often. Then I have examples where I have photos of my notebook pages and then the finished zine page here at the bottom, so you can see how I went from an initial idea to the finished page. I have a couple examples like that. I have some pages with photos of my handwritten notes that eventually made it into zine pages. Then I have a more detailed example with modern day Sisyphus. So I started with just bullet points on an index card, and then thumbnail sketches for each page, then hand-drawn illustrations. And I have some notes about how I laid it out in Canva, and then the finished zine over here. And then at the end is some notes about pages I've submitted to other people's zines. So usually I do collages for these. So that's what this is at the end here. That's Work in Progress. Here's a fun one called Hipster Doctor Who. I made it because 2023 is the 60th anniversary of the Doctor Who TV series. So what this is a collection of random photos with Doctor Who quotes over them, and I did one quote for each Doctor. So this is first Doctor, here's second Doctor. I made them in the style of hipster photos, which I explain in the introduction here, was in the late 2000s and early 2010s, especially on Tumblr. There's this aesthetic for hipster photos. They're like oversaturated vintage objects. And it was really fun to put text over the pictures, and then it looks like it's really meaningful, but it's just a pop culture quote and a random photo. So I've got one here for each Doctor. And then the inside covers are just a bunch of other quotes from the Doctor on each side. An Incomplete History of Zany Brainy. Zany Brainy was a children's educational toy store that opened in 1991. I really loved going there when I was a kid, so I made this zine about the timeline of the company, what was so great about going there, my favorite toys, some news articles about when Zany Brainy was at its peak, toys you could buy there, just a little bit of history there. Modern day Sisyphus. So this is the detailed example from Work in Progress, but this is about Sisyphus from Greek mythology. The idea of doing tasks over and over again, they never really go away. But then it ends on a positive note about things that you repeat that aren't necessarily a bad way to spend your time, like listening to your favorite songs, making a cup of coffee, those kinds of things that are repetitive, but you actually end up enjoying them. Song lyrics I miss here. So this is a collection of song lyrics, that's the black text, and in red I hand wrote what I would miss here the lyrics as. So I have one song on each page, and it's just different kinds of songs and how I would miss here the lyrics. Things we wouldn't have to worry about if we didn't depend on cars. This was when I was really frustrated about how we have to use cars to drive basically everywhere. So I kind of made a bullet point list of all the things you wouldn't have to worry about if we didn't rely on cars all the time. The background of this scene is actually a map of Chicago. You can see it here. The reason I chose Chicago is when I was doing some research for this scene, I found out that Chicago is the most congested city in the United States. Second most in the entire world. London is the most. That's what that scene is. Movies I never want to see again. I get into debates about this one, but I stand by my list. It's movies that I liked watching, but for some reason, for a specific reason, I never want to see them again, like something creeped me out, like in District 9 or Annihilation, or just didn't make sense, like Jupiter Ascending. So that's just what this scene is. Movies that are not necessarily bad movies, but I never want to see them again. Playground games in the 1990s. So I grew up in the 90s. I wanted to make this scene about what games we used to play on the playground. And I have little illustrations that go with each one. And then this last one is the most recent one I made. It's called Cat's Cradle. It's just a little story about mimicking people. It was actually inspired by the movie Annihilation, so it has like a sci-fi feel, but it's not technically a sci-fi story. And maybe you can tell these lines in the back are meant to be like Cat's Cradle string. The game that would be, it was a long loop of string that was multicolored, so that's what I chose for the background there. So that's what I made in 2023. I don't have any goals about how many zines to make per year, but I made more than I expected this year, so we'll see what 2024 has in store. Thanks for watching.